Yeah, name is Chadwick Leo. I'm an OBGYN. I've been in practice, finished my residency in 2011. I've been at this current job for coming up to a year now. So after I finished my training, I went and worked at a hospital system it was a rural hospital system for loan repayment options. And that was a great experience all through. Finished my commitment, and then I found my ideal job in Southwest Florida. So that's where I went, and I worked for another large health system. This job gave me a lot of opportunities because there was a lot of focus in physician development and leadership development. So I had an opportunity to play different roles in that job and serve on different committees and take up do the courses for physician development. This is where my interest became in more of I guess, a hybrid role with clinical and administrative. And I started getting interested in looking for an opportunity that would provide those two opportunities. And right now, this is how I ended up here as the medical director for the Women's Health Service Line and also the chairperson for the OBGYN department here. I think it was my experience. I think the relationship with you, Jeremy, and the organization was a very positive one for me. I've worked with a lot of different recruiting agencies. We were just talking about this earlier, where sometimes the response is not the greatest, and we understand there's a role for everyone to play. That as far as from being the recruiter, from being the clinician, and whatnot. And I have nothing but positive things with my experience. So when you reached out and asked, I was sure. I really think other clinicians would benefit from the kind of service that you provide. I think that, going through this process, not knowing sort of whose interests are they trying to serve best, right? Because they're trying to get you the job. So whatever the case may be, as the clinician, you're trying to make sure that they have your best interests, especially when you're doing negotiations. And so that trust, especially when you don't know them, you haven't met them, and this is through emails and texts and things that sometimes is hard to build. So my hesitancy was, are you really listening to what I'm asking, or what I'm looking for? Or you're just trying to get a job, land the job so that so that you can fill a position. I think the first interview with the having like a virtual interview initially, and the kinds of questions and how quickly my questions were answered. And whenever I brought a concern, there was always a communication. I never felt that I was speaking to someone and then the other person, and no one really knew what was happening. Even if the details weren't all there, you kind of had an idea. Okay, this is what he had asked. This is what he said, and that to me was impressive, because in other recruiters, I mean, sometimes when you're going through the chain, the left doesn't know what the right is saying, and this one says one thing and then the other thing, and then you just really get lost in the mixture, in the shuffle. I think it was very good for me in my experience. I have nothing negative to say. I think the response was very, prompt. I think the transparency was clear. When we went back and forth, I would send the document, the document would come back to me. I thought I was going to have more conversations with the organization, but I handled everything mainly through you guys, and that made it in a way simpler, because sometimes you don't want to come across to the employer as in like, oh, what, so that to me was really good, really positive. I feel that you had my interest at best, because I got what I wanted. In most parts, I think I had to bend in something very minor, which wasn't like a big deal, but all the things that were important to me in a new role, in a new job, that I wanted to continue, I think they were all met. So I was pretty content at the end, because even when we had salary negotiations, I knew there was going to be a big difference because of the way that I had my setup at my last employer. So I knew that I had to give away a little bit on that point. But even to that point, I think what I had set up, for, I think all the points were met. So I was pretty happy. I think it did, because when I was speaking, and I'm really bad with names.
That's
What was
okay.
it? when I was speaking to him, and if he had any further question, or not, he would reach out to you. So I felt like truly that it wasn't just a go person in between. Like I felt like I didn't have to go and contact the employer for anything further because you guys would handle it. If he didn't know the answers, he would reach out to you. If there was some other concerns, and that to me was comforting. Like I didn't feel like I was being left out of the conversation. I would say it was pretty efficient. I think the speed was pretty pretty on point. I don't have. I mean, it's been a year, but I don't have any recollection. I don't have any recollection that there was a delay. I was busy at work in that time, but whenever I had a question, there was always someone that I can reach out to. So, and whenever I had concerns about what the verbiage on the contract, there was an answer within a reasonable amount of time. And when it wasn't immediately that day or that hour, okay, I'll get back to you by such day and this time. So the expectations were always met. So to me, the professionalism was, top notch. The efficiency was pretty good, and the transparency was pretty transparent, pretty clear. Like I think what really stood out for me, Jeremy, truly was knowing, like I really felt like you had my best interest. Like when I said, okay, well, this is kind of where I want to be with my salary. This is kind of where I want to be with my CME days. This is kind of, and there was always that clear communication. I never felt from you or your organization, I never felt like, oh, you're asking for too much, or this is not doable. And if there was something unrealistic, I think we had conversations, but I never felt like you wouldn't try to have that conversation. And like I said, at the end of the process, because I think it took a little bit, because I was just not too sure. At the end of the process, I got, I think, everything that I had asked for. I think you met all the points, because from I understood, with my current salary, as I mentioned earlier, that there was going to be a difference because the setup was different, but I still wanted to be compensated fairly, and I think, even comparison, knowing what I know now, I think is pretty fair to my compensation. And there are some doing some contract negotiations, and my contract is protected for the next 3 years. So I think from a salary perspective, I think it was on point. The work-life balance was really good because that was important to me, especially with the additional CME days and things that we were able to negotiate. I think that was important to me, and that was approved. That we obtained that. So I think at every single thing that I wanted, and from the position, they were recruiting for this position, and this is kind of where I wanted to be, having both a majority clinical presence, and having the administrative input to develop the service line. I think it's impacted my personal life a lot more than anything else, because personally I have more time at home, and I feel like, even though I have that part-time job, but it really, I think I was working too hard in Florida. I really was. So I think it's helped me a lot in that sense. From a professional perspective, the team is very strong here. I feel very welcomed. It's like any other organization, things move at a certain pace. So, so things are a little bit slow to get where I want them to be, but I still see that they're heading in the right direction. So that's comforting. So, so there's definitely challenges, and but those are met with eagerness to resolve. Not as in a negative way. So professionally, I think it's met. It's challenging, so it's met that challenge I was seeking. And from a clinical perspective, I'm still building the practice. I've barely been here a year, but I'm busy enough. But it could be busier, I guess. And personally, for sure, because I feel like even though I drive here 20-25 minutes to work, I still have time at home. At the end of the day, I get in the same time that the kids get in, and I'm able to be more present. So in that sense, I think it's helped out a lot. I had never worked with an organization like yours, and when I came across your organization and what you were offering and how I felt comforted through the whole process, I would have no hesitations. I think I would say you've given it a shot with other recruiters. This is different than I don't know. To me, it's different than a recruitment company, because I felt different. Because I don't know, the communication was, the professionalism was, everything was really more than I had experience with some other recruiting agencies. And I'm not talking, like I said, we agreed to have this conversation just because I really feel strongly about it, because I really had such a good experience. So I really think it's give it a try, because you have nothing to lose, and you'll notice the difference. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You have nothing to lose. You gotta give you gotta give it a try. Medicine is ever changing, right? And we're competing with all sorts of different entities and politics and companies, and it's very challenging. I think whenever you have that doubt, you're feeling that either that burnout, or you just want to change a pace or a different chapter, go for it, because I think we're blessed to have the careers that we have, and to have the flexibility to move around as flexible as we are compared to some other industries. And there may be just another opportunity that would really change your life, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally. So it's worth taking a chance. I couldn't even tell you anything more, but you know what I mean? Like, I think you know of this from me. When I was in Florida, I felt like I had everything that I needed. So it was really hard for me to make a change. It was really hard for me in my mind to find a job that would match everything I had in Florida, from a financial perspective, from like my PTO, all the perks and all the opportunities they provided for me. So I guess initially I was like, do I really want to make this change? And then wanting to make that change and going through this process, no regrets whatsoever. And sure, been worth it throughout the whole process. I couldn't say anything different. So my advice would be, for anyone who's even thinking about it, is give it a shot. And I trust in you guys. If I was trying to make another change, that you'd be the first person I reach out to,
Wow,
because
thank you.
because I really felt like you had my best interest. And when you're making these decisions, you really want to have people on your side.